In the name of the one true God, the cosmic benefactor who is kind. They question you about the surpluses. Tell them that surpluses are for God and the messenger, so consider God and maintain harmony between you all. Obey God and his messenger if you deem yourselves to be embracers. The embracers are those whose hearts tremble when God is spoken of. When his directives are recited to them, it strengthens their conviction. Upon their Lord do they depend. They maintain observance and are charitable with what we provided to them. Such are the true embracers. They enjoy a high standing in front of their Lord, being delivered from evil and granted a noble endowment. Just as when your Lord sent you from the comfort of your home for a true purpose, while a section of the embracers disliked it. They disputed with you in what was clearly the right decision, even after it was clearly explained to them. They acted as if you were sending them to their death, with them being passive onlookers. Recall how God gave his word that either one of the two contingents would be yours to subdue. You were all expecting to overcome the less powerful contingent. God, however, sought to make truth become realized by his dictates and to curtail the power of those who suppressed. His aim was to validate the side of truth and to invalidate falsehood, despite the hatred of criminals. Recall how you pleaded to your Lord, and he responded to your plea with the words, "We shall strengthen you with 1,000 angels marching in formation." God made that message an inspiration and a comfort to your hearts. The source of all assistance is God, and God is mighty and wise. Then he made a drowsiness overcome you, which brought calm to you. Thereafter he sent rain down on you from the sky, with which to cleanse yourselves. It was then that he placed you all beyond the flaws of the devil. This was to bind your hearts and make your ranks firm. Your Lord communicated divinely to the angels, saying, "I am with you. Strengthen the embracers. I shall place anxiety in the hearts of those who suppress. Smite then above the necks and stave off all attacking hands from the embracers." This help came because those who suppressed truth challenged God and his messenger. Anyone that challenges God and his messenger should know that God is strict in imposing consequences. For that reason, the words are, "Experience then the consequences. For those who suppress, there shall be the torment of hellfire." Heed this, you who embrace this scripture. When confronting enemy combatants in battle, never turn around and flee. Whoever turns around and flees in the midst of battle, unless as a war tactic or to join another unit, earns the anger of God. His abode is hellfire, which is a terrible abode indeed. It was not you who killed them, but God. It was not you who fired, but God. This was indeed a sound test he gave to the embracers. God indeed hears and knows all. The war achieved that purpose, and the purpose of frustrating the plans of those who want to suppress the truth. If you were hoping to achieve anything, then one achievement is still available. Ending the fight is the best option open to you. If you relaunch the attack, so shall we. Your forces, even if you bolster them, are of no use, for God fights on the side of the embracers. Heed this, you who embrace this scripture. Obey God and his messenger. Do not ignore him when you clearly heard an instruction. Be not like those who claim to listen without really listening. Most definitely the vilest creatures in God's sight are the deaf and the dumb, those who fail to use their intellect. If God saw any good in them, he would give them the ability to listen. Had he done so, all they would do is turn around and oppose. Heed this, you who embrace this scripture. Respond to God and respond to the messenger when he invites you to that which will revive you. Be aware that between man and his own mind, there is God as a conscience, God towards whom he shall return. You should consider that a catastrophe does not only hurt those who did the wrong amongst you. God is strict in imposing consequences. Do remember how you were once few in number and oppressed in the land, fearing that others could remove you. Then he gave you protection and strengthened you with his aid, and provided for you of various goods. Hopefully you will remain grateful. Hear this, you who embrace this message. Do not betray God and the messenger by knowingly becoming derelict of your responsibilities. Be aware that your wealth and your underlings serve as a test. Know indeed that only from closeness to God comes the supreme reward. Heed this, you who embrace this scripture. If you bring God into consideration, he shall provide you with a standard by which to judge. He shall ward off the effects of your own flaws from you and redeem you. Ultimately, God is the dispenser of all benefit. Do recall how those who suppress the truth plotted to restrain or assassinate or exile you. They plan, while God also plans, but God remains the best planner. When our evidence is rendered to them, their response is, "Yes, we can hear. And if we wanted to, we could replicate it. These are but antiquated stories." Then they said, "Dear God, if this is indeed truly from you, rain down rocks on us from the sky, or afflict us with a painful punishment." But God will not punish them while you are still with them, nor will he punish them should they retract. But how can God not bring them to book when they obstruct entry to the sacred sanctuary, acting against its best interest? Indeed, those who serve as its guardians must be considerate. Sadly, though, most of them do not appreciate. Their observance at the sacred institution only ever consisted of whistling and clapping. Experience then the penalty on account of your obscuring. Those who suppress invest their wealth to obstruct the path of God. The return from their investment shall be sighs of regret, and eventually, defeat. To hellfire is where those who suppress are being herded. God's intention is to separate what is rotten from what is good. Then he shall make all that is rotten pile on top of each other, and join together so it can be consigned to hell. These shall be the ones that lost out. Tell those in suppression of truth that should they desist, they will be forgiven that which happened in the past. Continue to fight them until corruption is eliminated and the entire social makeup is oriented towards God. Should they cease, however, then they should know that God is fully aware of their doings. Should they renege, then be aware that God is your protecting guardian, a gifted guardian and helper. Take notice that in whatever gain you make, a fifth of it belongs to God, and to the messenger, and to the nearest of kin, and to the defenseless, and to the needy, and to the destitute. That is, if you are accepting of God, and what we revealed to our servant on that day, when the distinction was made between good and evil. The day the two forces met. God has control over everything. And so it happened that you ended up on the near side of the valley, while they were at its far end with the caravan being further down from you. Even if you had planned to intercept the caravan, you would have missed it. This had to happen so God could settle a matter that needed to be settled. This turn of events meant that those who perished did so with full understanding, and that those who survived did so with full understanding. God indeed hears and knows all. In your dream, God made them seem few in number. Had he shown them to you as a large number, you would have become discouraged. You would have gone into disagreement in the matter. Therefore did God bring about acceptance. He knows what goes on inside minds. Then when you met, he made them appear small in number to you. He also made them underestimate you. This, so God could settle a matter that needed to be settled. To God do all matters get referred. Heed this, you who embrace this scripture. When you confront an army, stand firmly and remain very conscious of God. That is how you gain victory. Also, obey God and his messenger while avoiding disputes. That brings discouragement and leads to you losing your strength. Persevere, for God is always on the side of those who persevere. Do not imitate those who set off to battle full of pride and conceit, seeking people's adulation as they go about obstructing God's path. When through all this, God pervades their every action. The devil made their actions seem noble, telling them, "No man can overcome you today, as long as I accompany you." When the two armies caught sight of each other, he turned and ran away, shouting, "I have no part in this with you. I can see what you cannot see. Afraid am I of God." Strict is God in imposing consequences. Then those of dubious commitment and the foul-minded stated, "These people's belief system makes them delusional." But whoever depends on God, God is mighty and wise. If you could witness those who suppressed truth after they departed, you would see angels chastising them on the face and the rear, telling them, "Experience then the burning torment." This is what they brought on by their own doings, for God never unduly punishes a servant. It is like was the case with Pharaoh's people and those before them. They suppressed God's evidence, so God took them to task for their crimes. God is powerful and strict in imposing consequences. That is so because God never alters the comfortable state he bestowed on a people, unless they individually undergo a change within themselves. Also because God hears and knows all. As was the case with Pharaoh's people and those before them, they rejected the evidence of their Lord, and so we made them perish by their very crimes. Pharaoh's people. We overwhelmed with the deluge, all of them culpable. Indeed, the worst of all creatures in God's sight are those who obfuscate and are unwilling to concede, including those who you made a treaty with, then broke it every time, out of sheer lack of consideration. Your decisive defeat of them in battle serves as a deterrent for anyone after them, making them think carefully. If you suspect that a people may have committed a breach of a treaty, then make a renouncement in reciprocation. God dislikes treaty breakers. Those busy with obfuscation must never consider themselves having the upper hand. Their efforts are futile. Prepare against them all the military power you are capable of, including steeds of war. Such power scares God's enemy and your enemy away, and any other enemy besides them. Enemies known to God but not to you, yet. Whatever item you donate to the cause of God shall be repaid to you, and no abuse shall you suffer. If they lean towards a peaceful settlement, then opt for a peaceful settlement, retaining your trust in God. He indeed hears and knows all. If their intention is to deceive you, then God will requite you. It is He who strengthened you with His support and with those who embraced. He created solidarity between them. Had you expended everything on earth, you would not make them acquire such solidarity. But God bonded them together, for He is indeed mighty and wise. Dear Prophet, all you need is God, as do the embracers who follow you. Dear Prophet, rally the embracers to engage in combat. 20 of you persevering can overcome 200. 100 of you can overcome 1,000 of those who suppress. This is so because they lack understanding as a people. For now, God has eased the burden for you because He knows you are frail. Therefore, if you are 100 persevering souls, you can overcome 200, and if you were 1,000, you can overcome 2,000, with God's permission. God is on the side of those who persevere. A prophet should not take prisoners of war, unless he has to slaughter many in the land. Your aim is the gains in this world, whereas God's aim is the life hereafter. God is mighty and wise. Had it not been for the required precedence of a ruling from God, you would have been severely penalized for that which you took. Enjoy therefore what you gained in war, and consider it lawful and good. Always consider God, though. God, the ever forgiving and kind. Dear Prophet, tell the captives under your control. Should God find good in your hearts, He will restore to you even better things than were taken from you, and forgive you. God is forgiving and kind. If they now seek to betray you, they already betrayed God before, for which He brought them down. God's ruling is based on His perfect knowledge. Those who embraced truth and adopted exile and took up the struggle, sacrificing both their wealth and their own physical well-being in God's cause, as well as those who sheltered and supported them, are all in a mutual alliance. As for those who embraced but refrained from adopting exile, you owe them no allegiance unless they choose exile. Should they call on your military support by invoking the pact, then you have to give support, unless it is against a country with whom you have a treaty. God is ever watchful of your doings. Those who suppress the truth are all in a mutual alliance. If you fail to also build an alliance, civil disorder and corruption will reign on earth. Those who embraced truth and adopted exile, and took up the struggle in God's cause, as well as those who sheltered and supported them, are the real embracers. To them be due deliverance and a noble endowment. Those who embraced later on, then adopted exile and struggle with you, they are part of you. God's decree does, however, retain the natural alliance between blood relatives. God is fully acquainted with everything.